name is Matt Zacher, current Alderman of District 3. I have been living in Wisconsin Rapids for 18 years now. Before that, I lived in Milwaukee, went to school, got a master's degree in social work, worked mainly with young people in juvenile correction situations. Before that, I did 3.5 years in the military, served in Desert Storm for 1.5 years. Since we've been in Wisconsin Rapids, we started a business with my father-in-law, Joe Kazicki, and now I own it with my brother, Tim. And we appreciate serving the community and doing what we can to help the future of the world. We decided to get involved 2 years ago in politics just to start to get a better understanding of how politics works and what's really going on behind the scenes, instead of just being frustrated with what you see from media and from a distance. So here I am 2 years into it and ready to go for another 2 years.
Hi, my name is Will Haskell. I moved to Wisconsin Rapids in 2007 from California. I moved here because I was considering going to graduate school at EWSP. I first started becoming interested in how government works in high school, and even though I went off and studied education, I eventually came back and I studied public administration and communication at EWSP, and I graduated with my master's in 2020. After talking with a lot of people in the community, I believe that one of the major challenges that we have here in the city is retaining and attracting people to the community. We hear a lot of people talk about attracting businesses, which we need to do as well, but before we can attract businesses, we need to have people that live here. And to help people want to live here, we need to maintain our community at a level that people want. We have some great things here in the city. Now we just need to keep them going.
Well, I think about a lot of things that are affecting the city. The one thing that always comes back to me as the most important is trying to transition the community from what was to what can be. And I know it's hard to comprehend because we don't really know. So we're dealing with a future that's uncertain for the community. We know that the mill is down. There's still certain things that are happening there, and we're having conversations about what we would like to see as what would happen with the buildings that are there, the 1,000 acres, that everything that is in the city that those buildings sit on, well, what we would do with that. And it's big undertakings, and it's going to be a process that lasts long into the future. But the sooner we can change our mindset as to how we feel about it and what we want to see happen is to me the most important. And I know it's not necessarily up to the city government to be able to, take the responsibility on of changing a personality of a community, but it's important that we see it and at least understand it as best we can and do what we can to encourage it and build a vision that is all-encompassing for all the different people that are here. You have people that are moving here that are super excited about the community. You have people that have been living here their whole lives that either, one, love this community, or two, are frustrated with the loss of the mill and the loss of the jobs that come. But those jobs have been picked up in other ways, maybe not necessarily the way we all want to see it happen, but it's still happening and we're still evolving. And for me, the biggest part to that is, in my heart, in my DNA, is entrepreneurship, starting our own businesses. Instead of, yes, we need an element where we can have a platform so when somebody comes to us from outside our community, wherever that might be, and say, I want to move into your community and start this big factory and business, then we know how to do that, and we know what we can give in order to make that happen. But more importantly, I think, is getting young people, or adults for that matter, to start looking at the world and seeing what they can do to start their own business. And if it's a one-person business, or it turns into a 10-person business or a 100-person business, that's, to me, the future of our economy and the future of our community. And I see great things happening there. And what the city can do to help that is just understand it, be a part of the conversation, and be supportive in helping that grow. And then kind of getting out of the way so that people have the freedom and the excitement can be built, and it's not always a back and forth and a struggle to make those dreams come true. So for better or worse, I kind of took the budget on as, in my mind, has become it's the most important thing that we do as a city council. We talk about a lot of other things that I think bog us down into, I don't know, just kind of wears everybody down, when really we have to focus on the budget. And the budget takes on two different aspects. You have the people who feel that debt is okay, and we don't have enough money to afford the operations, so we take out debt to, and again, it depends, it's kind of a play on words. You can take out debt to fund a specific project, like basically the roads is what we've chosen to take the debt out for. And nobody's going to complain about that, because we need the roads. We all know we need the roads. But in the end, we still, if we're taking the debt out for it, whether you're saying it's for the roads or you're saying it's for the operations, it doesn't really matter, because the operations are too expensive. So therefore, we need $2 more million in order to fund the roads. So it's kind of a play on words in a way. And the long and short of it is, we're taking out at least $2 million in debt every year to fund the operations of the city. And there's a lot of people that are okay with that. And for me, I'm not okay with it. And I know it's hard, because we've been in this mode for probably 30 years or better, and it's really hard to break out of the norm, I guess, that what everybody's comfortable with, and it's worked for this long. But I feel like as the entire country gets more in debt and we are more unsure as to what that future looks like, the stronger we as a small community want to be with our finances, with our economy, and have that security no matter what happens outside of our community. So I'm staying pretty strong with, I want to see a no debt policy taken, and then work hard to pay off the existing debt that we have right now and put ourselves in a better position. Now, the people in the city do a great job running their departments and making sure that we have reserves and that we're not overextending ourselves too far. And I realize there's things that have happened over the last decade that have put us in a not as strong a position as we would like to be in. And then all the people, what's so hard about it is, when you have built a budget this way for 30 years or better, with accepting the amount of debt that we have accepted, it's really hard to go backwards, because everybody's fighting for the same pool of money, and they don't want to look at their situation and start to shrink it. Because my take on it, since I've been here in 2 years, is that most people that work in the government feel that if government doesn't increase and grow every year, then it's failing, it's falling apart, things are, it's a bad situation. I guess from the private sector, I look at it and say, if you don't see what's coming in the future and know you're going to shrink, and you get ahead of it and you shrink before it actually gets to that point, you can rebuild again. but you can't rebuild again if it all falls apart or make the situation much worse than it needs to be. So it's not easy. It's not easy to decrease people's budgets, and it's not easy to have people fight over the same amount of money, but it's even less now because we're trying to fit, that $2 million into the budget. But in the end, it's the only way you can do it is to decrease in order to get yourself back into the alignment you need to be in, because you can't predict future revenue increases, because there's just limited. When you're a government, it's limited to what you can and can't do. So I would focus on delicately try to find ways to shrink everybody's budget equally if possible and get us back into a sustainable budget so that we can be stronger growing into the future.
I have some not insignificant experience dealing with budgets and budget shortfalls. And from my experience, the best thing that we can do is to communicate. People that run different departments, they know what they need. They know what they can cut. So I would be talking with them. When you're budgeting, you can't just look at cutting. You need to also consider how to attract new revenue, new tax base. And that goes back to building a community that people want to live, because the more people that live here, the more we can attract business and the more revenue we can bring back into the city.
So I agree 100% that the library is a huge benefit to the community. And we, my wife, Jenny, and our 4 kids, we've enjoyed taking advantage of everything that it has to offer. Didn't really fully understand, what that meant until I got involved in the budgeting and seeing, what it took to run the city, and then also to what it took to run the library at the level that the library is at right now. And then I kind of, again, being a little bit more on the conservative side, because I do see it both ways. It's not like I'm one way and blinders to the other way. I see both sides, which can get very frustrating and make it very difficult to sleep some nights. But ultimately, the library is important, and I feel for everybody that works there, and I appreciate everything that they do. Thank you for that. And I appreciate everybody that's, dealing with how to make sure that it can continue to stay where it's at and grow. But ultimately, what has come to the table is that it's a very well-funded, and some people would say overly funded, institution. And there's, as we got into the discussions about possibly cutting some of that budget and getting it back to a level that is appropriate for a library that size in this community, then we started talking more with Catherine, and she brings so much to the table and so much to the conversation and to the library, to the city, to the county, and understanding the finances. And she's gonna do great things with the library, no matter what the budget is. But I think, one of the big things that we learned is it's really not a library anymore as we understood a library to be. It's more. It's somewhat of a daycare center for after school kids that don't have any other options, and we want to make sure that those kids have a safe place to go. For some of the homeless folks that are in our community, it's a place to go and read and get out of the elements for a while and be able to clean up. For seniors, it's a place to go to be able to do projects. It's become a maker space for anybody, no matter what age, to learn more skills and tasks. So the hard part about that is we're calling it a library, but it's really not a library anymore. And we should really redefine it. But then, as Catherine explained to me, if you try to redefine it and you take it, because a lot of this money runs through the state, or the rules and regulations for the funding run through the state, and if they try to start redefining it, it could backfire, and they could end up making it harder for the library, not only this library, but every library across the state. So there's kind of this fine line between, okay, knowing that it is more than a library now, and it needs the funding that we're giving to it every year, which is way above and beyond what the level would be typically. So there's a big conversation, much bigger conversation that needs to continue to be had on where to go with that and where the budget should be. And I would love to talk to anybody at any time. You can call me. I will have a conversation with you, and you'll understand where I'm coming from and how I feel about it, to a much greater extent than just a blurb in a newspaper or what somebody says that doesn't necessarily understand the big picture of what's happening. So I welcome that. I fully would welcome that anytime.
For a short time, I was on the Macmillan Library Board, and part of that time I was treasurer. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of what the library needs. The library is important for people of all industries, of all occupations, and at all economic levels, because it provides resources that they might not be able to afford or may not just want to have at home. And that's important to keeping a vibrant and active community. So we need to make sure that the library functions at the level that it needs. And remember, the library has been acknowledged. It has been commended for the programs and the activities that it's had. So I would want to sit down with the director and talk with her. Where can we go with the funding you have? And if we really have to, what can we cut back on? Short answer is yes. We need to increase efficiency in as many places as possible, not just buildings, but the vehicles that we use, because any place that we can reduce spending is good. And if we make buildings more efficient, that's more money that we could use somewhere else to keep other programs running smoothly.
We haven't talked much about this at the committee level yet, or at the committee level or at the council level. So we don't know a whole lot about it. What it is it's the possibility of getting some grant money. It's called Inflation Reduction Act, but there's many other opportunities out there that we could go after and get some of this money. This money would be specifically for any kind of energy efficiency updates, upgrades to like the City Hall building or anything else that could happen. And I'm certainly in support of anything that's going to help save money, especially if it's grant money that is designated for that. Sometimes what happens is we're convinced as government or as individual residents that if you spend all this money here, you're going to save that money up over time, and that's not always the case, and you end up spending more money and wasting more money than you would have otherwise, whether it's a better source of energy or not. So I'm in full support of whatever we can do in the city to alleviate or make our energy use more efficient. In the end, that would go from the committee level as a referral to the council level, and then we'd talk about it as a council, and at that point we'd bring in all the people from the city and possibly other areas that can give us a full education as to what's possible with City Hall building, or with other things that might be better served to make more efficient in our community that are the government's responsibility, and we would do those after conversation about what would be best used for the future of that money. So.
I've lived in many different cities from Wisconsin Rapids being one of the smallest to over 1 million people in the metropolitan area. Wisconsin Rapids is the first place where I feel at home. I feel that there is a good community of people here. We don't always agree, but we work things out. We discuss things, and that's what I really like about this place. We have some unique features here. We support families and businesses, the retired and the disabled. We have a lot of good things here, and I want to continue to support those and bring in modern ideas that help improve the city in which we live and help the population of this city.
I would like to serve another term for the city of Wisconsin Rapids, specifically Alderman of 3rd District. I always question if I'm doing a good job or not. It's always hard to tell, and it really kind of comes down to who you talk to and get the feedback. I know that I care a lot about our community. Been here, like I said, 18 years. The kids have been raised here, and it's interesting, even if it wasn't my home growing up, it is my children, my kids, my family's home now, and it means a lot. I see it for them, and ultimately that means, we're staying, so they have that sense of home, belonging, no matter where they go and what they do in the future. So I'm here, and I took on learning more about the government 2 years ago. I appreciate everything that I've learned, all the people that I've worked with, no matter what. To me, it's no longer like one side or the other. It really more comes down to who the people are in their heart, and that usually comes from what their family was like, how they were raised, things they did as a kid, where they ended up choosing to go to school, what they learned in school, what profession they went into, and all these things kind of play into building them into an adult, a person who's thinking and wanting to help their community. But that's what plays into, it's not this black and white thing that so many people are kind of locked into right now. It's very gray, and everybody has a big heart in terms of wanting to see the best for their community. But with that comes people who have learned to be more conservative and not wanting to see, debt and to stay safer, whether that's a fear or just a concern. And then other people are afraid if we don't keep growing and we don't keep spending that everything's gonna go to heck in a handbasket, and so it's a fear too. So a lot of things are based on the fears we have for our future, for our family's future, for the community's future, but ultimately it's still based on the goodness of their heart and how they feel, and I think that's the most important thing that I've learned over the last 2 years. And I've very much enjoyed it, and I think that I bring a sense of both sides to it, because I've always been a little bit more, or a lot probably more in the middle. If I'm not in the middle, I can see both sides, and again, it can be a really good thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing too if I got to make decisions quickly. It's not always easy to do. So, but I think I'm a good representative for everybody in my district, everybody in the city, and I look forward to serving you again for another 2 years, God willing.